Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So today's episode I'm calling I Dream of More Expensive Eldrazi. So of course, with that kind of a name and these fancy gold letters, it's a break the bank. So if you haven't seen my previous episode, I Dream of Eldrazi, make sure you stop what you're doing right now and go check that one out first. Because that's the actual initial deck tech on Rasputin Dreamweaver. Whereas this episode is an upgrades version of that. Regardless, that episode as well as this one come to you courtesy of Timu, who's been supporting this channel as a Golden Pig tier patron, and I truly couldn't do this without the support from amazing patrons like Timu, so again, Timu, thank you so much. Now for this Break the Bank, let's just take a quick look at Rasputin. On that previous episode, I went into a lot more detail on the commander and the strategy and the theme, but on this episode, I'll just give you a more high-level approach. Now, Rasputin is a very old card, but essentially it does this. It comes into play with 7 dream counters on it, and by removing a dream counter from it, you add colorless to your mana pool. So although Rasputin does cost 6 mana, he basically gives you 7. Now, of course, we've got some great ways to take advantage of this, especially with these upgrades. But first up, let's talk about some ways to upgrade our ramp package with things like Wayfarer's Bauble, Arcane Signet, and Sol Ring. Wayfarer's Bauble is still unfortunately not quite budget, and actually right now it's probably more expensive than both Arcane Signet and Sol Ring. But here's hoping we get a reprint in the future at some point. Anyways, basically we pay 2 and tap and sacrifice it to get a basic land and play tapped. So turn 2 land ramp for any deck, yeah, that's gonna be good in Commander. And then there's Arcane Signet, which is just a strict upgrade to many of our mana rocks. It just costs 2 and can tap for either of our colors right away. Though this just came out last year, it's already been reprinted quite a few times and was even reprinted in the Kaldheim precons. And speaking of Commander reprints, there's Sol Ring, which we're also going to be including. Obviously, these are all fantastic ramp cards, and upgrading our ramp package is one of the first things that we want to do when we upgrade our budget. But although it's necessary, it's definitely the least exciting out of all the upgrades. It's kind of like upgrading your socks. I mean, getting nicer socks, that's great, but is it really all that exciting compared to maybe upgrading your shoes? Terrible metaphor, I know. Let's move on to some shoes, though. So the first card that I actually have listed, ironically, also saw a reprint in the Kaldheim precons with Eerie Interlude. Now, from what I've seen so far, the price really hasn't adjusted all that much, but here's hoping that this card's price does go down quite a bit. It used to be budget, and it's a fantastic spell for pretty much any Blink deck. It says, exile any number of target creatures you control, return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Basically, it's a 3 mana instant speed, blink whatever you want to blink. Now, most of the time you do want to blink pretty much all your creatures, but sometimes, let's say that you have a token, you don't want to blink that because it's just going to go away. So of course with this card you can take advantage of any creatures that have ETBs or LTBs, which I should probably mention are enter the battlefield triggers and leave the battlefield triggers. We've got a decent amount of creatures in this deck that this can really help out, especially our commander. Because again, with our commander, this essentially pays for itself and then some. We might be spending 3 mana on this, but we get 7 mana back. And on top of using this to abuse ETBs or LTBs, it's just going to be a fantastic way to protect our entire team. If someone casts a Wrath, then we have our creatures leave for just long enough and then they come back at the end of the turn. So yeah, definitely a fantastic upgrade, and again with the reprint, I really hope its price drops further. Moving on to another Blink card though, we've got Conjurer's Closet, which is a fantastic end of turn Blink effect. It says at the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. Now I did mention that we do have multiple targets for this in this deck. Maybe that's a creature with an ETB that draws us some cards when it comes into play. Or maybe it's one that gets us a spell back from our graveyard. Or, you know, we could just take advantage of our commander's incredibly powerful ETB, getting us basically 7 mana for free at the end of each turn. So we can essentially utilize all of our commander's mana during our turn, then we get a free recharge at the end of the turn. So a versatile, repeatable Blink effect like this one is huge in this kind of a deck. And with its recent reprint in Double Masters, this card is just out of budget range, but with our upgraded budget, we can easily put it in. And speaking of a repeatable blink effect, we've got a Planeswalker that can help us out as well. Venser the Sojourner is a Planeswalker with 3 loyalty that costs 3 white blue. Its +2 is exile target permanent you own, return to the battlefield under your control to begin the next 10 step. Its -1 is creatures are unblockable this turn. And its -8 is you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, exile target permanent. So each of Venser's loyalty abilities are very relevant in this deck. The +2 obviously is just basically like a Conjurer's Closet during our turn. The -1 can get all of our creatures, especially our lovely Eldrazi, through. And if that's not taking out opponents, the ultimate can really help us out as well. With all the mana that we can generate with this deck, we're going to be able to cast a lot of spells, so we can just start exiling the most important things. With a price tag of nearly $10, Venser is definitely not budget, but definitely a fantastic upgrade when we can afford it. But of course, I have to bring up the King of Blink himself, Brago King Eternal. Brago is a fantastic Blink commander in his own right, and it is great in the 99 of Blink decks. Brago is a 2/4 flyer, and when he deals combat damage to a player, we exile any number of target non-land permanents we control and return those cards to the battlefield under their own control. So essentially this is a repeatable mass Blink effect that is somewhat similar to Eerie Interlude. Okay, wait, although it does affect non-land permanents and not just creatures, and I guess those things come back right away until the end of the turn. Okay, so it's just somewhat similar, let's say that. Still, it's incredibly effective, especially since those things come back right away, we have the opportunity to blink them again with something else. Now, Brago did see a reprint in Commander Legends, though it was a fancy reprint, so the price only dropped just a little bit, but it's still around $4, so a great upgrade for this deck. And of course, you absolutely cannot talk about Blink without talking about Deadeye Navigator. Essentially, Deadeye Navigator has Soul Bond, and when it's paired with a creature, both those creatures get pay 1 and a blue, blink this creature. So essentially, this is a mana-making machine with our commander. Now, unlike Eldrazi Displacer, this is not infinite, because our commander generates colorless mana and we've got to pay a blue into this to actually get that effect. Though with this, you're essentially converting 1 blue mana into a lot of colorless mana. And of course, this pairs incredibly well with basically any other ETB creature in this deck. And while it doesn't go infinite with our commander, it does go infinite with Peregrine Drake. And because Deadeye is so powerful and combos with quite a few things, it's right around $6 at this point. But again, a great upgrade for Rasputin. Now, even with our upgraded budget, unfortunately we can't get any of the Titans, but what we can get is Void Winnower. And Void Winnower, in some ways, can be even deadlier. It's an 11/9 Eldrazi, and it says your opponents can't cast spells with even converted mana cost, and your opponents can't block with creatures with even converted mana cost. So yeah, it'd be an understatement to say that this throws a wrench into your opponent's plans. If your opponent's got the wrong cards in their hand, they just literally can't cast anything and they're shut out. It's actually the worst when you're going up against a Void Winnower and you actually have a removal spell in your hand, but it's even, and it's just, yeah, not great. And on top of that, again, Void Winnower can really help your creatures get through too. And 9 mana might seem like a lot for a lot of decks, but Rasputin can get this thing out in no time. And just like its mana cost, Void Winnower is right around $9 at this point. So it's not Titan prices, but it's still pretty up there. Now, when I'm looking back at it, I may have misspoke when I was talking about, upgrading your ramp package being like buying new socks. Because that might more so being like upgrading your lands. It's not all that splashy or exciting, but it is effective. So we're going to be taking out some of our lesser lands for things like Temple of Enlightenment, Mystic Gate, and Nimbus Maze. Temple of Enlightenment is a scry land, which yes is strictly better than other lands that don't do anything and come into play tapped. Mystic Gate is a filter land, meaning that it filters your mana. You can tap it for a colorless, or you can pay Azorius into it and tap for any combination, so white, blue, or blue. Nimbus Maze can tap for a colorless or can tap for either of your colors depending on if you've got an island or a plains. And then we're going to be adding in 3 more lands with Glacial Fortress, Port Town, and Prairie Stream. Each of these can come into play untapped if we meet a certain condition. Glacial Fortress comes into play tapped unless we control a plains or an island. Port Town is somewhat similar, but we have to reveal that plains or island from our hand. And then Prairie Stream comes into play tapped unless we control 2 or more basic lands. So like those nice new socks you just bought, they are strict upgrades, though they're not all that exciting. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.